Good morning, everybody. I am coming to you from our classroom, obviously, with a lesson on decimal review. Now, one of the purposes of this lesson is to review calculations with decimals. The other purpose is to learn how to follow along with a video in completing our lessons. We're going to do this a lot, and I wanted you guys to have um, kind of a starting point. So if you remember yesterday, we reviewed fractions. Today, very similar. So you have this handout for your notebook. Okay. And I want you to follow along, copy along, write along with me. If you come up with questions that you don't understand, I want you to make a note of those questions so that when you come back to class, you can ask them so that anything that you're not clear on becomes clear before we actually do the in-class practice or the homework. Okay. So a couple things to remember. When you're adding and subtracting decimals, the place value alignment is critical. Okay, you have to align your place values. For me, aligning the place values means aligning at my decimal points or my ones place. That tends to be the best spot for me. So in this case, adding 8 and 25 hundredths plus 6 and 7/10. Notice how I stacked the numbers where the ones place is vertical, the decimals are vertical. Then you simply add 5 plus nothing is 5, 2 plus 7, 9. My stacked decimals, so it just comes down, and 8 plus 6, 14. So 1495, 14 and 95 hundredths. Depending on the use, we would change how we pronounce that number. Now, what about for subtraction? Same thing. 2 and 37 hundredths. If I'm lining up my decimals, okay. Now, if my place values are lined up correctly, all of the rules of borrowing or regrouping remain the same. So if I cannot subtract 9 units from 7 units, I have to regroup, move, borrow 10 units from here, okay, which leaves me with 17. 8, 4, okay? So a couple things we're practicing there. Our alignment, our actual subtraction skills. These are problems that my expectation is you will be able to do them without a calculator. If you need a calculator to do these problems, we need more practice. Okay? That is not to say calculators are bad. Calculators are great. I love them. But if you can't do it without the calculator, do you really understand what's going on? Okay? Now, when we're multiplying and dividing, the rules are different. And we did some practice this week that showed that there might be a little bit of practice that's needed here. Okay, so I'm just going to, with no regard whatsoever to the alignment, write down a multiplication problem. Notice I did not even try to line up my decimals. You can, but to be honest, it's kind of a waste. You end up doing more work than is necessary. So now I'm just going to multiply 14, 17, 6, 7. Okay. Now notice when I quit multiplying by the tenths and I move over to multiplying by the ones place, I am now multiplying by a power of 10. Okay, I moved over a full unit, which means that my starting place here moves over a full unit. So I need this placeholder. 0, 3, 15, 49, Here's the key. So I did all the multiplying. That part all got done. How do I determine the right place value? Well, this top factor had 2 decimal places. Okay, and I'm going to use a color. And I encourage you to use color as well. This top one had 2 decimal places. This bottom one had 1 decimal place. So in total, I'm going to need 1, 2, 3. Okay, in case you couldn't remember that. In case you just needed a refresher from the summer. Now, the next one is division. Okay, you can ask at home. You can ask me when I'm at home. Not everybody loves to do long division, but it is necessary. How many units of 1.5, 1.5, would fit into 3.555? Okay, if this is $3.555 million, you want to know how many of these fit in. So it is an important skill. First of all, this is being divided by that. So when you fill it in on your paper, keep your order correct. Okay. Secondly, we want to take this decimal place and we want to move it over so that we're dividing by whole units. If I move this over a tens place, okay, I also have to do that with here and bring my decimal straight up. Okay, and notice I kind of over exaggerate my decimal. It helps it not to get lost in my work. 15 fits into 35 2 times. 2 times 15 is 30. And that leaves me with 5. Bring down the 5. 15 fits into 55 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 1. Okay. And 15 fits into 105. Well, we know it's not 10 times. Okay. I can guarantee it's more than 3 times. Okay. So let's try 7. Notice in my brain, and you can do scratch work down here to kind of try a few, but I estimated. This is the proper use of estimating. Okay. 7 times 5 is 5. 3, 7. Boom. Okay. Now, what if I had said 8 and it was wrong? I would just erase and do it again. Okay. So there are 4 examples: adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing with decimals. And you are going to get some practice in class as well. Now, a couple reminders. I try to add graphics like this to your notes. It's a lot easier than writing it in. There's your decimal point. Okay, again, a good use of color. And then notice tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. It's very important to know our place value. And tomorrow or later in the week, we're going to do some practice with rounding. How do we round with different place values? Have a great day, and I will see you later in class.